Hello! My name is Jordan Hoots, and I will be presenting on Spinoza versus Hume and their moral philosophies and their moral theories. Who would win in a morally charged fistfight? I guess we'll see. On to Spinoza. Look at that handsome, strapping lad. I would listen to anything he had to say. Spinoza is interesting because he is a rationalist, so he believes that any sort of good that can come in the world is formed by reason alone, and the more you know about the world and the less you're dictated by your passions and external forces, then the more well-rounded of a person you are, the more well-equipped you are to do good in the world and be free from guilt, pity, shame, things that we kind of associate with the passions. So he believes and says good and evil are concepts formed by the imagination and not reason. So when we look at what God is and what existence in the world is, it's like God is in everything we do. He's in every table, every chair, every scientific law, every tree, every action. And the more that we understand these things about the world and come to know the processes of the world and the laws of nature and the laws of science, we're not relying as much on how we feel. And this is what makes the distinction between morals, I guess. So all things follow from the necessity of the divine nature, and hence whatever seems immoral, dreadful, unjust, and dishonorable arises from the fact that we conceive the things themselves in a way which is disordered, mutilated, and confused. So the world itself is not providing us with these awful events and like natural disasters, for example. It's not like these are all bad things that are happening. It's just that the world is like that, and we're just conceiving of things wrong. And whatever seems immoral, we're just conceiving it in that way, and that's our own passions acting on us. The more we understand things that happen, and for instance, love. When someone treats someone poorly in a relationship, it's just because we can't understand fully what love is. So it's not that we are doing bad to each other. If we knew more about love, if we practiced what we learned, then we wouldn't feel that way. So in a sense, it is about feeling, but it's about reason over feeling. So we should not be protesting the way things are. Existence is how it is, and the laws of nature are not good or bad. We should just be trying to understand them more fully. Align your will with that of the universe to be free from guilt, pity, or shame. So the more we know about the universe and how it works, the less we can feel guilt, pity, or shame because of these passions that are unreliable and just act on us instead of us acting out of reason. Next we have Hume, and he's kind of the complete opposite, and he's also wearing a bonnet of some sort. And he takes the complete other route, and he says reason comes after the passions. We need to trust how we feel. Trust what's in your stomach, in your gut, because the sensations are all that we know in our bodies. And things in the world can change, and natural laws, they aren't acting on us. It's how they make us feel that's first perceived by us. And so reason has nothing to do with morality. It's all about the passions. And if I can think of this imaginary, unbiased character in my head and he's completely unbiased, or she's completely unbiased, and he or she sees an event happen, like a shooting, and he feels, oh, that's bad, because then that means it's bad, because that's what all connects us as humans. It's that we have this internal sentiment, and we have this internal metaphysical feeling in ourselves that tells us, that can help us distinguish between what's right and wrong. And the things out in the world are changing constantly, but what we have and can rely on is our immediate sensations. Foundations of our moral behavior can be found in our emotions and feelings. Reason is and ought to be the slave of passions, and can never pretend any other office than to serve and obey them. So reason should come after these passions, and if I think something is wrong, that's how I feel inside, then my reasons can keep determining whether that's right or wrong. For instance, if I see someone shoot someone and I feel it in my tummy, that's a wrong action because of the sentiment, then I can look at the reasons and say, okay, why did he shoot him? But first comes that innate passion in us. So yeah, that's basically the difference between the two. One is a rationalist, one is an empiricist, and yeah. Next slide. Oh, I didn't have any other slides. What I found most interesting in the class, and what stood out to me most about the class and like how we learned, was that with each installment of reading about a different philosopher, I felt that we got a look into their history, like their personal history. And what I found really interesting about, like, especially Spinoza and Hume, was what other people had to say about them. And honestly, this is what stuck with me most, is that they were such, according to other people, gentle souls, if that even exists. Morally good people who were just seeking out truth. And that's what sticks with me, is that, like, though these guys had different philosophies about, like, God, and, like, to some extent, Hume wasn't even religious. Well, was he religious? I don't think so. But, like, just the goodness that came from these guys. And Spinoza was exiled from the Jewish church, or sorry, not church, synagogue. And just, yeah, what stuck out to me was just the gentleness that was conveyed about them by other people. Yeah. And then what was most challenging about the class was that I felt like sometimes I did not understand the reading at all. And it was hard to, like, stick with it, especially if it was like 40 pages of reading. And I felt like I would try and highlight stuff, but it just wasn't sticking in my brain, mostly because I didn't understand the language being used, or like, but then again, some of the, like, summaries were very helpful. So I felt like what was most helpful was just going to class and then talking about stuff, and, like, having the professor give us a summary of what the reading was about, and then we would kind of talk through it as a class. But yeah, that was what was most challenging, was just on my own trying to understand what some of the philosophers were saying and what their views were. So yeah.